Good morning, students. In the last class, we have seen some relations between pressure, volume, and temperature during adiabatic changes. And today, we will use one of those equations and derive an expression for the work done during an adiabatic change. After that, we will see mathematically why the adiabatic changes, the graph between pressure and volume is more steep compared to the isothermal changes. So let us go ahead and derive an expression for the work done during adiabatic change. You remember what is adiabatic change, right? What is meant by adiabatic change? What is an adiabatic process? Can you tell me?
Adiabatic process is where the heat can't go out of the system nor it can enter the system.
Yes, the amount of heat is not given to the system or no heat is taken from the system. There is no exchange of heat between the system and the surroundings. Such changes are called adiabatic changes and it occurs at a fast rate. Such changes, the adiabatic changes can be expansion or compression and it occurs at a very high speed. So let us see what is the work done during adiabatic change. So let me just express a graph between pressure and volume. Okay. So this is a pressure volume graph. It should be a straight line. And you know that it's called an indicator diagram. Indicator diagram is a graph drawn between pressure and volume. And for an adiabatic change, suppose a gas initially at state A having pressure P1, volume V1 and temperature V1, after undergoing an adiabatic change gets to state B, which has a pressure P2, volume V2 and temperature T2. So gas is undergoing an adiabatic change. So looking at the graph, can you tell me which one will be greater, T1 or T2? The temperature at state A or the temperature at state B, which one will be greater? Do you guess which one will be greater? Any guesses?
The A point.
You are telling that T1 will be greater than T2, right? Hasina, you told T1 will be greater than T2. Let us see how. Why you told T1 is greater than T2. Is this correct? Let us see. We know that in an adiabatic change, the first law of thermodynamics can be written as dq is equal to du plus dw. The amount of heat given is used to increase the internal energy or temperature, and some of them is used to do work by the system. So in an adiabatic change, there is no heat energy given. So dq will be 0. So 0 is equal to du plus dw, or you can say that dw is equal to minus of du. Now looking at this graph, let us see whether this is correct or not. Now when the gas go from A to B, what happens to its volume? The volume is increasing, which means it's an expansion. When volume increases, we call that it is expansion. So when the gas expands, it is pushing everything in its surroundings. So the gas is doing work on its surroundings. So when the gas expands, work is done by the gas on the surrounding. So work is done by the gas on the surrounding means work done is positive. dW is positive. So the internal energy should have a different sign. So the internal energy should be negative. So internal energy will be negative when its internal energy is decreasing, which means the temperature is decreasing. So during this process, which is an adiabatic expansion, the gas should cool down. Its temperature should decrease. So as it go from T1 to T2, its temperature decreases, which means T1 is greater than T2. It's cooling down. So you are right, Hasina. This is correct. T1 is greater than T2. Now, in such a process, let us find what will be the expression for the work done. We know that the work done, dW, in any process can be expressed as dW is equal to PdV. Well, P is the pressure, V is the volume. So pressure into change in volume. Now, in order to get the total work done, we have to integrate this expression. So the total work done W is equal to integral of P dV when it goes from state A to B. Now we are integrating with respect to volume. So let us put the limits as it's going from V1 to V2. So between the limits V1 to V2 P dV. In this case, can I take the pressure outside? No, because when the volume goes from V1 to V2, the pressure is not remaining a constant. The pressure also is changing. It's going from P1 to P2. So P is not a constant here. I cannot take P out of the brackets. Now I will have to express P in terms of volume to do the integral so that this expression is exclusively containing only volume. Now, if I try to express pressure only in terms of volume by using the gas equation, ideal gas equation, which is PV is equal to nRT. For 1 mole of gas, PV is equal to RT. Then P will be equal to RT by V. Can I use instead of P here RT by V? R is a constant, no issue. It can be taken out of the integral. Volume, it's integrating with respect to volume, so there is no issue. But temperature, is temperature a constant during this process? No, we saw that the temperature also is changing, right? So I cannot express pressure in terms of temperature to put in this equation. In all earlier derivations, we did so, but we cannot do it here because temperature and pressure both are changing. So what I express here should be only in terms of volume. For that, I'm going to use one of the equations which we derived yesterday for an adiabatic change, PV raised to gamma equal to a constant. And I'm going to write this constant as equal to K. So I can write P is equal to a constant K divided by V raised to gamma. Now K is a constant and this expression is exclusively in volume. So I'm going to substitute this in this expression. So the total work done will be equal to integral V1 to V2 K dV by V raised to gamma, right? So V raised to gamma, I can express it as also equal to V raised to minus gamma because it is in the denominator. So this is equal to integral V1 to V2 K V raised to minus gamma dV. Now I can integrate, right? So this is a constant K, it will stay as such, and what we have is V raised to minus gamma. What is integral x raised to n dx? How will you integrate this expression? This is equal to integral x raised to n dx. X raised to n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. So this is how we integrate. So this is the formula. So I'm going to use this one. Instead of x, we have here v, and instead of n, we have here minus gamma. So I'm going to use this expression. So this will become equal to integral from v1 to v2, a constant k, and v raised to minus gamma plus 1. Minus gamma, sorry, integral, I'm integrating. So no need to use the symbol integral. Minus gamma plus 1 divided by minus gamma plus 1 between the limits v1 to v2. Is this clear? How I went from here to here? Instead of x, we have v, and instead of n, we have minus gamma. So I have taken minus gamma plus 1. Now, I can write minus gamma plus 1 as 1 minus gamma, right? It's the same. I'm just rearranging it. So, minus gamma plus 1 can be written as 1 minus gamma. So, this is equal to k v raised to 1 minus gamma divided by 1 minus gamma between the limits v1 to v2. Now here, what is k? K is a constant, but it has a value p v raised to gamma. So instead of k, I can substitute p v raised to gamma. So this is equal to p v raised to gamma v raised to 1 minus gamma whole divided by 1 minus gamma between the limits v1 to v2. Now here v raised to gamma into v raised to 1 minus gamma. What will be that? We have a raised to n into a raised to n is equal to a raised to n plus n. So v raised to gamma into v raised to 1 minus gamma can be written as v raised to gamma plus 1 minus gamma. So gamma minus gamma gets cancelled and it will become v raised to 1. So I am going to write v raised to gamma v raised to 1 minus gamma as just v, which is v raised to 1. So I am going to do that, and this will become therefore equal to pv by 1 minus gamma between the limits v1 to v2. Now let us put the limits v2 and v1. So first we will write upper limit minus lower limit. Now note that when v is v2, what is the value of pressure? Pressure is P2. And when v is v1, the value of pressure is v1. So I have to substitute both for v and p. So I'll put the limits. So it will become 1 minus gamma is common for the denominator. It will come in both terms. So I'm going to write it as 1 minus gamma. And it will be first putting the upper limit P2 V2 minus P1 V1. So we have the work done, W is equal to P2 V2 minus P1 V1 divided by 1 minus gamma. Is this clear to you? How we got this expression? Up to this,
Yes,
is
teacher.
it clear to you?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Now, this is the work done. Now, we can also express the work done in terms of temperature. Let us see how we can express in terms of temperature. We know that by ideal gas equation, PV is equal to nRT, and for 1 mole of gas, PV is equal to RT. So I can write P1 V1 as equal to RT1. Similarly, P2 V2 I can express as RT2. So I am going to substitute that, and it will become T2 minus T1. R is common for both. So I can take R outside. So the work done will be equal to taking R outside. 1 minus gamma is also outside. This will become T2 minus T1. Now, think of this. What about T2 minus T1? Will it be a positive quantity or a negative quantity? T2 minus T1. Will it be a positive quantity or a negative quantity in this case when the gas is expanding?
Negative.
It will be a negative quantity because T1 is greater than T2. So in the numerator, T2 minus T1 will be a negative quantity. And what about 1 minus gamma? Will it be a positive quantity or a negative quantity? Remember, we derived.
Positive.
Yes, Hasina, you were telling.
I was saying maybe it's negative.
It will be negative. You are right. Why? We have obtained the value of gamma for monoatomic, diatomic, and polyatomic molecules. You remember what were the values? For monoatomic molecules, gamma was equal to 1.67. For diatomic, gamma was equal to 1.40. And for polyatomic, gamma is equal to 1.33. So always gamma was bigger than 1. So 1 minus gamma again will be a negative quantity. So in the numerator and denominator, if you keep this equation in this way, you will get a negative quantity on the numerator and denominator. So the work done will become positive. Or to avoid that numerator and denominator which are in negative, I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator with negative sign. So work done can also be expressed as R by, instead of when I multiply in the numerator negative, it will become T1 minus T2 divided by, instead of 1 minus gamma, I can write gamma minus 1. So this is the expression for work done in an adiabatic change. So if you know the temperature at the initial state and the final state, you can use this expression. Work done is equal to R by gamma minus 1 into T1 minus T2. Or if you know the pressure and volume at the two stages, you can use this formula. P2 V2 minus P1 V1 by 1 minus gamma. So both are expressions for the work done by a gas during an adiabatic change. Is this clear to you? How we derive the work done during an adiabatic change?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Now, even if it is compression, this is expansion, right? Suppose the gas is going from state B to A. It's compression. Then work is done on the system. So the work done will be negative and the temperature will rise. So in that case, you can use this expression. So the temperature will rise in compression. So T2 minus T1 will be a positive quantity. Again, the denominator will be a negative quantity because gamma is a constant. Doesn't matter whether it is expansion or compression. Gamma is a constant for a given gas. So work done will become negative. So it implies that if the temperature is increasing, then work done will be negative, and if the temperature is decreasing, the work done will be positive. So it is implied by this equation. So is it clear to you? Then I can go to the next topic we are planning to discuss today. So now we will see why in an adiabatic change, the PV curve is more steeper than an isothermal curve. What is meant by an isothermal change? What is meant by an isothermal change?
Where the temperature is constant.
Yes, where the temperature remains constant. So we are considering two cases. One is isothermal change, other one is adiabatic change, and we will see the PV graph for both, and we will try to find the slope of both of those graphs and compare them, and there we will get the answer for our question, why adiabatic change, adiabatic curve is steeper than isothermal curve. So let me first consider the isothermal curve. So I'm considering an isothermal change. So isothermal means the temperature remains a constant. In practical cases, isothermal changes are changes which occur slowly, expansion which occurs slowly, so there is enough time for the system and the surrounding to enter into thermal equilibrium. So there is no change in temperature of the system. It will remain at the same temperature as that of the surrounding. It's a slow process. So slow expansion, and the heat exchanges between the system and surrounding, and the temperature of both of them remains same. They exist in thermal equilibrium. Similarly, if it is slow compression, then also it will be isothermal, because there is enough time for the exchange of heat between the system and the surroundings, and the temperature of the system remains same. So slow processes are usually isothermal in nature. So in an isothermal curve, I'm going to draw both curves on the same graph. So first I'm going to draw isothermal curve. So this is pressure, volume. So this is an isothermal curve. From a state A, gas reaches a state B. So it may have pressure P1, volume V1, and temperature T1. And it's isothermal. So at B also, the pressure will be P2, volume V2. Pressure and volume can change, but temperature will remain same, T1. So this is an isothermal expansion or compression. This is expansion or compression. Volume is increasing. So this is expansion. So this is isothermal expansion. Okay. So let us consider what is the slope of the curve. What is the slope of the curve? We know that the slope of any curve is dy by dx, right? The slope of any curve is dy by dx. Now, in the y-axis we have pressure, and in the x-axis we have volume. So, for an isothermal curve, the slope will be dp by dv. So, the slope is equal to dp by dv. So, to get dp by dv, let us consider the relation between pressure and volume in an isothermal change. What about pressure and volume? Let us consider the ideal gas equation. PV is equal to nRT. For 1 mole of gas, PV is equal to RT. And for isothermal curve, R is a constant. Temperature also is a constant. So I can write PV is equal to a constant. So for isothermal changes, PV is equal to a constant. Now to get dP by dV, I am going to differentiate this with respect to volume. So I am going to take d by dV of PV. So if I take d by dV of a constant, it will be 0. So d by dV of PV is 0. Now pressure and volume both are changing, right? As the volume increases, both pressure and volume change. So it's like d by dx of uv, where u and v both depends upon x. Then you have to write it as du by dx into v plus u into dv by dx. You have to differentiate both and write them as separate terms. So here both pressure and volume changes with volume. So we have to express this as P into dv by dv plus v into dp by dv is equal to 0. Now what is dv by dv? 1. So I can write it as P is plus V dP by dV is equal to 0. Now when I take P to the other side, it will become minus P. So dP by dV, V into dP by dV is equal to minus P, or I can write dP by dV is equal to minus P by V. So this is the slope of an isothermal curve. For an isothermal curve, see, the slope is negative. Why is it negative? Because it is steeping down. If a curve goes up the hill, the slope will be positive. So if you have a graph where this is the line, it will have a positive slope. Now, if it is going down the hill, it will have a negative slope. See here, it is going down the hill, right? So it's going down the hill to a valley. So it is a negative quantity. So the slope of the isothermal curve is a negative quantity. Now let us consider an adiabatic curve. I'm going to draw that on the same. Instead of isothermal expansion from state A, if the body is going an adiabatic expansion, then it will be steeper. So at C, the pressure will be P2, not P2. Let me consider it as P3, V3, and T3. Or T2 I can write. From T2 or T1, the temperature change. I just mentioned here P3, V3, T2 just to show that the pressure will be different, volume will be different, and temperature will be different. Here, in the first curve, pressure will be different, volume will be different, but temperature is the same. T1 and T1, they are same. But here from A to C, when it goes, temperature also changes, T1 to T2. So all the pressure, volume, and temperature, all of them change during an adiabatic expansion. So this is a adiabatic expansion because the volume is increasing. Okay. Now let us see the slope for an adiabatic curve. So for an adiabatic curve, again the slope will be equal to dP by dV. Now for isothermal curve, PV equal to a constant because temperature is a constant. But for an adiabatic curve, we cannot write PV is a constant because temperature is not constant. What can we write? What is the expression relation between P and V for an adiabatic curve? We derived that yesterday and used this when we derived an expression for the work done. It is not PV which is constant, it is PV raised to gamma which is a constant. So PV raised to gamma is a constant, and like we did d by dV, we are going to do d by dV here. So when I differentiate with respect to V, P d by dV of PV raised to gamma equal to, when I take d by dV of a constant, it will be 0. Now, let me differentiate. So, it will be P into dV raised to gamma by dV plus v raised to gamma into dp by dv is equal to 0. Now again, if I take dv raised to gamma by dv, what is that? D by dv of v raised to gamma. If I take d by dx of x raised to n, what is that? N into x raised to n minus 1, right? So I can write dv raised to gamma by dv as equal to gamma into v raised to gamma minus 1. So I'm going to write like that. So here I have p v raised to gamma divided by dv. So I'm going to write it as p v raised to gamma minus 1, gamma into v raised to gamma minus 1 plus v raised to gamma into dp by dv is equal to 0. Now if I take this quantity to the other side, it will become v raised to gamma dp by dv is equal to minus gamma p v raised to gamma minus 1, or dp by dv will be equal to minus gamma p v raised to gamma minus 1 divided by v raised to gamma. What is v raised to gamma minus 1 divided by v raised to gamma? We have a raised to n divided by a raised to n is equal to a raised to n minus m, right? So here we have d raised to gamma minus 1 divided by v raised to gamma. So this is equal to v raised to gamma minus 1 minus gamma. See? So what happens? Gamma minus 1 minus gamma. So gamma and minus gamma gets cancelled. So what remains is v raised to minus 1. What is that? V raised to minus 1 is equal to 1 by v. So here I have gamma p v raised to gamma minus 1 by v raised to gamma, which I can write as 1 by v. So I am going to write this as equal to minus gamma p by v. Right? So I got the slope dp by dv for a adiabatic change is equal to minus gamma into p by v. It was just minus p by v here, and here it is minus gamma into p by v. Now, which one will be greater? Minus p by v or minus gamma into p by v? This will be greater. Why? Gamma is bigger than 1, right? So any number, if you multiply with a quantity bigger than 1, you will get a bigger number. For example, I have 10. If I multiply it 1.5, so 1.5 into 10 is 15, right? Now, if I multiply with a number less than 1, it will become smaller. Let us see. If I just multiply it with 0.5 into 10, it will be 5. So you should have such concepts like whenever we multiply a quantity with a number greater than 1, it will be bigger quantity. Therefore, dp by dv, the slope is bigger than this quantity. So the slope is bigger. Slope is bigger means I'm telling the value is bigger. You may wonder, it's negative, right? So negative quantities, if the value is more, it's a smaller quantity. That is right. But it's a p by v. And when I take the value, it's a smaller negative value compared to this. This is a bigger negative value means it has more steep. It goes down at a steeper rate. So here the negative just means that it is coming down the hill. And the value is more means it's more steeper. Or you can tell that the slope or the adiabatic curve is gamma times the slope for a isothermal curve. Here gamma times minus P by V. So you can tell in short that for adiabatic curve, slope is equal to gamma times slope of isothermal curve. Or I can write it as slope for adiabatic curve is gamma times the slope of isothermal curve. Is this clear to you? So this explains why for a adiabatic change, the curve is P is steeper than an isothermal curve. Is this clear to you?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So we have one more period today. So then we will go to the second law of thermodynamics.